CA Board of Directors. Following past practices, I will chair this annual meeting of the members of the Columbia Association. Please remember that this meeting, as well as the following organizational meeting of the FY25 CA Board of Directors and the organizational meeting of the Columbia Council are being live streamed. You can find the agendas and background materials for all this evening's meetings on the CA Board of Directors webpage. Links to these documents can also be found in the description section of our YouTube live stream for those watching the meeting there. If you're virtual, please mute your microphones unless speaking. If you're in the room, please ensure that all cell phones are silenced. Raise your hand to speak and I'll record the names in the order which I see them. If you're virtual, please use the chat feature. As we move through the meeting, I'll introduce each item on the agenda. Before a vote is taken, I'll restate the motion as well as who motioned it and seconded. If at any point you have trouble hearing me or any member, please say so. Tonight's timekeeper is Keith O'Neill. I will now call the roll. Sky.
Here, yes, here.
Reg. Here. Karen.
Here.
Chris.
Here.
Michael.
Here.
Keith. Here. Bill. Here. Colin.
Here.
Ashley.
Here.
And I am here. Also present is Dennis Matty, the President CEO of the Columbia Association. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Are there any objections to the agenda? Seeing no objections, the agenda is passed by unanimous consent. We'll now move on to resident speakout. I'll call on you one by one in the order which you signed up. Individuals have 3 minutes for comment, and anyone representing an organization has 5 minutes. Following remarks, the board will have a chance to ask questions. Please mute your microphones when you're not speaking. Our first speaker is Kat Wee. Kat?
Sorry.
Kat?
I wanted to talk about the Fairway Hills Golf Club. We've been having some really torrential rains and flooding, so the golf carts can't go through the tunnels because they were flooded, and I have photos of that. One of my neighbors who is near that particular part, they live on 10 Mills Road, people were rolling over his lawn because they couldn't go through the tunnels, and I'm wondering what is in place to fix that.
So, are there any questions regarding the Fairway Hills tunnels or comments?
Is there anyone that can? Here's my question: is there anyone that can speak to it? That framed as a question.
I am not aware of people going through people's yards, so it is something I'll have to look into. And the staff there are workarounds for it because it's not the first time the tunnels have flooded. So I will look into it and address it.
Okay, thanks.
Just want to know if there's someone I can email with the name of my neighbor who has people rolling over his grass and the pictures of the flooding.
Yeah, just send the email to Dennis, and you can CC the board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any other comments? Thank you. Our next resident is Robert Dover.
Hello, folks. Hello, new people. Hey, Bob. Since 2021, CA staff has been attempting to convince the community that a stream restoration project in Elkhorn Branch will improve water quality, uplift ecological function, replace invasive plants with natives, and stabilize stream banks. They've also claimed that the impact of cutting down tens of acres of trees will only be a temporary minor inconvenience for the adjacent homeowners. At your meeting here 2 weeks ago, you discussed the actual results from the Longfellow project. During that discussion, there was no evidence presented of improvement of water quality or ecological function, and CA admitted that they're still dealing with the invasive plants. They also acknowledged that after only 3 years, they've already had to do repairs of eroded areas. However, the biggest issue at Longfellow is the failure of the reforestation effort. The project's required to meet a 75% tree survival rate after 5 years, but instead dropped to 49% in the first year and 36% in 2 years. Those numbers reveal an immediate and massive failure of CA's obligation to restore the project area. Making this worse is the fact that the year 2 and 3 monitoring reports submitted to regulators completely ignored these actual survival rates. Instead, they simply claim that the trees are quote unquote well established, even though the authors knew that the rates were far below the 75% standard. when 64% of your trees have died in only 2 years, claims that trees are well established are both false and misleading. Based on my review of dozens of documents and emails I've obtained, I've identified multiple other claims in these reports that are either unsupported by data or contradicted by data. I hope we can all agree that the actual results, benefits, and residential impacts of a major project should be fully understood before jumping into a similar project that is 6 times the size. That's not what CA did. Instead, you initiated a full public press campaign to sway the opinions of residents on Elkhorn while construction on Longfellow was still in progress. Now we know that not only are the Longfellow results not positive, but the reports submitted to regulators concealed unfavorable results. CA is the holder of permits and a signatory to the DNR agreement on this, and you're now associated with the submittal of this misleading information to regulators in the official reports. I believe that the CA board needs to conduct a comprehensive review of the project, independent of the staff, in order to correct the record to ensure that future projects are based on the actual and accurate results. Thanks.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Karen?
I did have a
Karen,
question, yeah.
Karen, sorry.
Bob, thank you for coming in tonight. I'm going to start with the beginning of your speak out. The trees are dying. I think from previous resident speak outs, there's really, what is the chance that those trees are ever going to survive? Should CA persist in trying to reforest that area, or should we give up and let the area just go?
Oh, I think once you've done the damage, you have to persist in trying to fix it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reg.
Hey, Bob, question for you. You mentioned as part of your testimony that the responsibility is on us, the board members. What do you mean by that?
I didn't say the responsibility was on the board members.
Okay, I may have mistook.
Yeah, I said that CA's name is on the permit as the responsible party, and CA is also a signatory on the DNR agreement. So, this has been sold as, I've been to meetings where it's just claimed, oh, this is just SHA. This is all SHA and we're not associated. It's your land, you issued the permit, or I'm sorry, you issued the easement, and the permit and DNR agreement have your name on them. So that makes you associated.
Okay,
Not you, the board, makes CA associated.
okay.
Ashley?
Would you mind emailing your testimony to us, just so that I can review the numbers that you went through? I need to go back and watch the presentation that was given about the Longfellow update, because I wasn't on the board then.
Yeah.
But-
No, I'd be happy to, and your colleagues will tell you I usually do that the day after.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jill Hurwitz. Jill, are you out there?
Evening.
Hey,
Can't hear you.
Can you speak louder or up your volume?
I've had to up my volume, but
Okay, that sounds good.
Joel Hurwitz, Harper's Choice, member of the boards from Harper's Choice, speaking for myself. On the same topic I've talked before, and the fact that Ashley just asked for information, you are not a board yet. As I spoke about last time, do your organization meetings in the wrong order. The first one should be the council meeting, as I said last time, and emailed the president and the general counsel this afternoon again. The governing documents of the villages say that the council shall in turn be entitled to nominate from among its membership persons to be elected and serve on the board of directors of CA, all as provided in the Articles of Incorporation of Columbia Association. At the orientation last week, General Counsel had a slide that says the Columbia Council continues to hold an annual organizational meeting to fulfill its formal role as contemplated by the CA and the village's governing documents. We seem to agree. The village's governing documents talk about the Columbia Council, but yet you persist in doing things out of order. And the one thing that the governing documents really specify that the council should be doing is nominating the members to be on the CA board. And you don't do that. And you're going to have the meeting last when it has no purpose. And you're going to have a pro forma meeting when nobody can point to any document that even requires you to have a pro forma meeting, because the only thing you're supposed to do is to nominate. moreover, a lot of the governing documents of the villages point out the supremacy of the Columbia Council rep. The bylaws of a number of them, or all of them, say that voting can be suspended by members of the villages if they don't pay any dues, if we had dues to the villages, or if the people are in violation of the restrictions under the village deed, except for election of the Columbia Council representative. So even if you screw up with your village, you still get to vote for the Columbia Council representative. So why can't you recognize the village's governing documents, which you sort of recognized, Mr. Kuchno, in your slide, but you refuse to recognize your own sentence? So again, I ask for answers to these. This is about the half dozen times I've spoken to the board on this. So those of you who've been here before, you've heard me say this multiple times. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Karen?
Joel, if we go out of order, what are the consequences?
Well, you're not currently a board yet. You go through all the formalities of appointing from the members doing the appointing. So how are you having a board meeting first? Then you're going to appoint, and then you're going to have a council meeting that after all the business is done.
So
It's sort of like Congress when they didn't have a speaker. You're not organized yet.
So
You should organize yourself, elect the new chair, and proceed. Instead, you're doing everything backwards because you're under the 2024 chair, which so I don't understand. And the consequences are that this is part of a bigger problem I have.
Joel, I'd like to get a question in. So right now, we're not actually having a board meeting. We're having a meeting of the members of the Columbia Association. So what's the ramifications of having a members meeting?
Well, you're not members yet either. You haven't been appointed.
So
elected.
So the Columbia Council appoints the members in your view?
I think that's in the charter.
Columbia Council, in the Articles of Incorporation of the villages, says the Columbia Council nominates and the members elect.
So the
So
Columbia.
you haven't done either of those steps yet, but you're having a meeting talking to you. First, you should organize yourself. Then you should listen to the public.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Last, we have Sharon Boyes representing Protect Our Streams. Sharon? Sharon?
Here I am. Here I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you see me? Hello.
Hello.
Sorry about that. Good evening, board members, and congratulations to the new and returning board members and member-elects for Joel's Speak Out. Thank you for taking on this commitment and for your dedication to our community. I would like to thank the folks who decided to go ahead and add resident Speak Out to tonight's agenda. Unfortunately, hearing from the homeowners, for better or worse, comes with the job when you work or volunteer for a homeowners association. This is your opportunity to hear what's on the community's mind. The door should always remain open. Believe it or not, as some of you may know, we spend a lot of time writing, editing, and timing speakouts to be certain we can get our points across in a limited amount of time. And we have a brand new year ahead of us, so I'm going to keep it short tonight. I'm holding off on a response to the update that was presented at the last meeting on the Columbia Association Stream project that took place in Longfellow for now, other than to say, I don't think I have ever heard of someone referring to something that is failing as seeing those failures as a success unless the goal was failure, like in a scientific experiment. And how much is too much before something breaks for good? Moving on. Did you hear we had an election? Of course you did. And congratulations once again to the board members who won. But so many people in our community either didn't know to vote or didn't take the time to vote. 2 villages didn't establish a quorum, which is not unusual, but it left one village seemingly confused on how to proceed, and I've heard conflicting final vote counts for candidates in the other village. If there's one thing that we really must all agree on, it should be if we held a fair election, and are we doing what we need to do as a community to ensure the integrity of our village elections? Some people didn't know about the election because it wasn't widely advertised. I feel some people don't understand the work and the mission of the village boards, the CA board, and even CA anymore. They don't understand what's in it for them, so they don't participate. They don't understand if they want to protect their stream or open space, or if they want extended pool hours, or to talk about the annual charge, that these boards and CA are the folks to talk to about that stuff. We need to change that. And we need to get the word out for people to vote the next time. We also need to talk about ensuring that each village has standards and guidelines for different scenarios and how to proceed when a village encounters them. We need procedures that will instill confidence in our elections instead of uncertainty. There must be transparency to gain trust. Thank you for your time tonight and for your commitment to our community. I wish you all the best for a smooth and productive year. Thanks again.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next, we have the approval of the minutes by consent. Receiving no comments, the draft minutes of the May 11, 2023 annual members meeting and the October 26, 2023 special members meeting are approved by consent. Next, we have the election of the 10 directors to the Board of Directors. Per resolution contained in your packet, may I have a motion to elect the 10 representatives to the Board of Directors of the Columbia Association.
I so move.
Second that.
I amended my name spelled out.
You can certainly amend it to have your name spelled correctly. Are there any objections to the motion electing the 10 directors amended so that Ashley's name is spelled correctly? Seeing no objections, the motion passes. We are now all directors on the board. May I have a motion to adjourn the annual meeting of the members of the Columbia Association?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any objections? Seeing no objections, the meeting is adjourned at 7:17. I'm Eric Greenberg, Chair of the FY24 CA Board of Directors. Following past practices, I will chair the beginning of the organizational meeting for the FY25 Board of Directors. There will be a vote in a few minutes for the Chair and Vice Chair of the FY25 Board of Directors. The individuals as Chair for the FY25 Board will then preside over the rest of this organizational meeting. Please remember that this meeting, as well as the upcoming organizational meeting of the Columbia Council, are being live streamed. You can find the agendas and background materials for all these evening's meetings on the CA Board of Directors website. Links to these documents can also be found in the description section of our YouTube live stream for those watching the meeting there. If you're virtual, please mute your microphones unless speaking. If you're in the room, please ensure that your cell phones are silenced. Raise your hand to speak, and the chair will record the names in the order which they are seen. If you're virtual, please use the chat feature. As we move through the meeting, each item on the agenda will be introduced. Before a vote is taken, the motion, as well as who made it and seconded, will be stated. If at any point you have trouble hearing anyone, please say so. Tonight's timekeeper is Keith O'Neill. I will now call the roll. Sky.
Here.
Reg.
Here.
Colin.
Here.
Karen.
Here.
Chris.
Here.
Michael.
Here.
Dennis.
Here.
Keith. Here. Bill.
Here.
Ashley.
Here.
And I am here. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Are there any objections to the agenda? Seeing no objections, the agenda is passed. Next, we'll take an intermission so that everybody can sign the necessary policy documents. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the election of the chair and vice chair. So I will call for nominations for the role of chair of the Columbia Association Board of Directors. Karen.
I would like to nominate Keith O'Neill for chair.
Okay.
I'll second it.
No seconds are necessary for nominations. So we have a nomination for Keith O'Neill.
I'd actually like to have a broader discussion about chair and vice chair at the same time. I think a lot of us recognize that Keith is really qualified and would be a good chair. I know that there's at least half of the members of the board that would also feel very comfortable if Bill were in one of the two leadership positions. So we would feel, or I would feel more comfortable if we have a single discussion about chair and vice chair, and if we can agree that Keith will be chair and Bill will be vice chair, I think that'll be really helpful. And before anyone says we can't do this, of course we can.
Karen?
The board can do whatever it wants. I cannot support that. I'm sorry. Bill, in too many occasions, Bill has emotional outbursts at the board meetings, and I don't think that he has the temperament to be a solid vice chair. So I would actually nominate Reg to be the vice chair with Keith if we're going to have a broader discussion.
I'd like to back up a second. I think you just made, I think trying to do both at the same time is a little too complex. So I'd like to just focus on the position of chair right now. So are there any other nominations for chair?
I will nominate Bill Santos for chair.
Okay, so we've got a nomination for Bill Santos for chair. Are there any other nominations? The nominations are closed. We'll pass it ballots.
I just want to point out that if this goes to a stalemate for any reason, I'm stepping away from nomination. So that would mean that Bill would be the chair. So I just want to be clear on that.
So John and I will collect these and then fold them over. We'll take them off screen, count them, and come back.
Actually, before we vote, I do want to allow the candidates to make any statements that they want to make. So I'll let Keith, do you want to make a statement?
Sure. So I looked at background, but if everyone's comfortable from a background standpoint, then I'm not going to review that aspect. But I do think that I'd like to say a few things about what to expect. So if it's not what you want, then obviously you can decide not to move forward with my candidacy. So I do pride myself on ethical, transparent, and carrying an appropriate sense of humility. Of course, I make mistakes, and I try to, even at the board meeting, try to take responsibility for those components. So what you can expect from me, we're going to focus on strategic elements rather than getting into the operations. I felt, and many people have seen me talk about the fact that we dive far into the operations more than we really need. Focus on productive conversations and a simplified approach to governance and process. I'd like to challenge the board to continue embracing change and trying new ways to operate. I start from a place of trust and respect for the backgrounds and experience of the professional staff. I'm working toward timely meetings and less required time from the board overall. The start to healthy and productive relationship with the incoming CEO. And above all, I'm a stickler for respect, so conversations I understand get heated, but I don't appreciate and will work very hard to stop any disrespectful conversation from board members, staff, or residents during speak out. I don't believe any of us deserve that, nor do we have any time for that. Sorry I'm not looking up, but so if this all sounds appropriate and you're willing to jump on board, I think that I could be an appropriate candidate. Otherwise, I'm more than happy to continue this year on the board and contribute the way that I've contributed for the year that you've seen me. Bill.
All right. I didn't expect to be in the race for chair, so I really don't have any prepared remarks. Keith, I thought that was a great statement, so I don't think I'll hold a candle to it, but I'll try. I do have a bit of experience chairing boards and committees. I was chair of the Wild Lake Village Board, the Howard County Planning Board, and the Howard County Board of Appeals. And to Karen's point, in none of my time in any of those leadership roles did I ever lose my temper, even when discussing things that I vehemently opposed. I know how to run a meeting. I want to make sure that everybody throughout the year is heard, both residents and board members. And I look forward to facilitating spirited discussions and guiding the board for the next year. So I'll just keep it short and let's get to voting.
So, John's got a comment.
Just for the record, Chris Fuchs is not here, but we've arranged for him to send an encrypted email with his vote to me.
Okay.
And both for the chair and vice chair, and we will make that part of the record at the appropriate time. But so he will vote that way. He doesn't have a written document, but he will vote in an encrypted email.
So do any other board members want to make any comments? I know, Mike, you actually proposed an idea. So does anyone want to make any further comments on the process or the nominations?
Keith, if you could once again state your position before we got into the statements of based on the outcome of the vote, what would happen? I just want to make sure we're clear.
If the vote is split the way that it was last time, I'm not going to split a chair and vice chair. And if it's split, I'm going to step away from the nomination, which would, I think, default to the other individual, which would default to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mike?
So since it seems that people want Keith and are have concerns about Bill being vice chair, I would assume that would mean you're going to have more concerns that he would be chair. So again, the first recommendation I had was for Keith to be chair and for Bill to be vice chair. And if we have to have a split decision in order to force that, we'll go that route. But
so are you making a motion?
That was the motion. Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
I will, whether it's a nomination or a motion, a joint nomination for Keith as chair and Bill as vice chair, contingent upon one another serving in those roles.
So I got a motion from Mike Glebersuck to make Keith the chair and Bill the vice chair. Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Sky seconds it. Are there any comments on the motion?
I think that it's a challenging motion because I don't believe that all the candidates have an opportunity to speak about the vice chair position. So if there are other people who are interested, I think that it's appropriate rather than combining to give them an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, I don't know procedurally if you can do a 2-for-1. I think there need to be votes for chair and vice chair unless they're done by consent. But I think it's a little confusing to do it that way.
So I will ask the board, is this a consent motion?
You're not saying it's a consent, you're asking if it's unanimous.
Yes, I'm asking, is this unanimous? Are there any objections to this motion? Reg?
Yes.
Yes. So there's objections to the motion. Based on the advice of general counsel, I believe this motion is not a valid motion. Do you concur, general counsel?
Yes, I think you should take separate votes.
Okay. I will respect the advice of general counsel on this matter. Are there any other comments on the nomination for chair? Seeing no nominations, please, everyone, cast ballots. Please make sure there are 10 of them.
John. Oops, sorry. Forget you. I'm in the catbird seat over here.
Boy, this is serious.
There was some drama a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Just angst. Nothing nefarious, but accusation.
It's split.
Can I make a statement before we go?
I will, so we have a split 5-5 vote. I will allow both.
Jeez.
We're actually very good at this.
I'll make it easier, so we're good.
Well, I will let, at this point, I will let both candidates make a statement before we go to a revote.
Go for it.
Bill?
I'll just state what I stated before. I don't think we need to say anything else. We'll just keep moving.
Cool. So I'll make my statement. So I just want to point out, this isn't that I don't want to run against anyone, or I have concerns from that standpoint that I can't compete. But I think that what's being done is not necessarily the most effective way. And as you guys all know, the way that I've operated on this board, I'm not going to play any political games or anything else like that. So at this point, if that's how we're going to move forward, I guess we could take another vote. But if it happens that way, then I'm going to withdraw my nomination. I'm happy to have you as the chair, if that's what is occurring.
So I will go Karen, and then Sky, and then Ashley. Karen?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. The reason I nominated Keith is I felt strongly for a while now that Keith should be the chair of our board. And we're bringing on a new president. Keith is a CEO. He works at that level. He is an executive. He understands the executive position. There are very few people in this room who have the level of experience that Keith does. And I really appreciate his measured tone and his approach to how he deals, how he works within our board meetings. I think that a lot of times when the board can be at odds with each other, it's Keith who is the one who brings us all back together, kind of keeps us on point, and I really appreciate that. And again, I think it's critical that we have someone like Keith in the role of leadership when we have a brand-new president coming. I think it'd be a really helping hand to, to make sure that everything fits well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Sky?
I'd like some clarification. I thought Keith said he would withdraw his nomination if it was a tie, and so could I?
He has not.
I don't understand.
He has not yet done so. Ashley?
Is it possible, so if there's no open motion right now, is it possible to suggest that we vote for the vice chair first, and that may remove this conflict that we have right now?
I believe we've got to do this in order.
Do we have to? Is that a requirement? Can I motion that we vote for vice chair to resolve that, and we could remove this problem? Or vice chair, yeah.
John's looking it up.
I think John's doing some on-the-fly research for us.
I can find my one piece of paper.
Can we make comments about that as we're discussing?
We can. Well, I don't have a motion. Are you going to make a motion?
If it's allowed, I'll definitely motion
So
for us to appoint vice chair first.
You can make a motion, and if it's deemed not allowed, we'll retract.
I motion that we appoint the vice chair first prior to the chair position.
I'll second.
So we got a motion from Ashley to revise the agenda to vote on vice chair first, and I got a second from, who seconded it? Mike. I got a second from Mike. Is there any discussion on the motion from Ashley to reverse the order of the election?
I'm out of order, but I didn't understand what you said to my question.
So the answer to your question was Keith has not withdrawn yet.
Okay, thank you.
So right now we got a motion by Ashley to vote for vice chair first. Are there any comments on the motion? Mike.
I was just going to say that I agree with this. I think this is a good way forward. I think there's probably a majority of the board that wants Keith to be the chair and Bill to be the vice chair. And I think it's a real shame if we allow bureaucratics and parliamentary procedure gum that up. There's also a strong portion of the board that really is pretty insistent that Bill is going to be in one of the two leadership positions, and we'll force that if necessary, but that's not our number one goal, and I'd really like us to be able to figure out how to get to what I think is the majority position.
Reg.
So I'm a little disturbed here. Sorry, Mike, you're new, but it seems like you're saying that from your point of view, that a majority of the board has told you that what their position is, and if that's so, then it comes as news to, I would think, most of us. I don't think you know. I think this is an opportunity for the board to vote and say which way they feel. For you to say that, hey, they already know, I think is problematic.
Well, technically.
That's not what I said.
I got the floor. Technically, the first vote was split 5-5, so there's been no majority cast by this board. Any other comments on the motion by Ashley? Keith?
Yeah, I'll say, how do we describe this? I spent the better part of a year trying to work through and get rid of politics and working through that whole piece. So it is extremely disappointing to me. And what I will say, and these aren't threats, I'm just disappointed. So what I will say is if we switch this whole vice chair business and we are going to start the year that way, I just don't want anything to do with it, because I said that, kind of how I operate, and I'm just not playing all those games. It's just frustrating to me. So I'd rather just call a spade. Go ahead, and if you want to vote for the chair and do what you want to do that. If we're going to play the game with the vice chair and all those pieces, and when I say it's a game, I kind of get what's going on, but I don't want I don't want this meeting to start the rest of the year in that fashion, because we started the year and it was a struggle to sort of get us back on track, and I truly don't want to be a part of that. So, Mike.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, right? And that is why I started out making what I believed was a compromise position.
Yeah.
Between two different sides of the board, which I think we all kind of understand what those contours are. And I don't think there's hard differences on all of those. And so I think what I started off with was a compromise position. It was not trying to play politics, but it is just a very candid statement that there is half of the board is pretty confident that they want Bill to be in one of the two leadership positions, and that they also would be willing to accept Keith, and not just willing, would be happy if Keith was chair, as long as Bill was vice chair. And it'd be a shame, I'm kind of on board with you, it'd be a shame if we can't just figure out how to get to what I think is a compromise position.
Sky.
Yeah, what all this says to me is that we all agree that we would like Bill in one of the two positions and Keith in one of the two positions.
That's not what we agree on.
That's not the agreement.
That's the way I see it, and I guess people disagree with me.
So I hope I stalled for enough time to ask John for some guidance on the question of whether or not we can actually flip the order of the elections.
The operating procedures, they don't explicitly state that the process can be reversed, but I think a fair reading using legislative statutory interpretation, if I were going to do that, is reading it as a whole, that the election for chair should come first and the vice chair should come second.
So given that interpretation, I will ask, is there unanimous consent for the motion on the table to flip the elections? Are there any objections to the motion on the table to flip the elections? I see. What?
I'm sorry, I thought John said that we should not flip the election.
Yes, so I'm asking, are there objections to the motion before I
Could I just state too, before I go on, in terms of the split, according to what happened last year with the 6 months of split, the procedures state that the board may consider that. It's not mandatory. So it's not, if there's a split, it has to be like that. It just says may. So you don't have to do that.
So the guidance I received is that our governing documents basically require that the chair election happens before the vice chair. but we are allowed to split the co-chairs as what happened last year. So given that we got legal advice against moving the elections, are you willing to withdraw the motion? If not, I'll ask if there are objections to the motion.
I wanted to confirm what John was saying. Are you just saying that you're suggesting that we do what we've always done because we've always done it, or is there a rule that you were citing?
I'm citing the operating procedures, which are in a logical order that says the chair essentially says you take care of the chair first, and then you go to the vice chair, unless there's unanimous consent, and then you can just say, we agreed on this.
Yes.
But it does not, there is no provision in here to flip the order, or, and certainly the way I read it, you know, the chair is first and the vice chair is.
So based on the reading, the only way this motion can pass is if there's unanimous consent. So that's, and based on the advice I'm getting from the general counsel, I believe that's the case. So I will ask you, are there any objections? If there are any objections, I'll ask you to withdraw the motion. Is that fair? Yep. So are there any objections to Ashley's motion to flip the election of chair and vice chair?
I object.
I see two objections. Therefore, I request you withdraw the motion. The motion to flip the elections is so withdrawn. So given that, we're back to the main election at hand is the election for chair. We've got two nominations, Keith and Bill. I will point out that John did allude to what happened last year where we had a split co-chairs. And I see a hand up here, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I know that John's saying we can't do it as a single vote. If there's some way to have a discussion about who the vice chair is prior to the vote, and we can get confidence about who that would be prior to voting, I think that would be another way to resolve things as well.
So to give a little history, last year when we had a split, we actually had two votes. They both came out tied, and then there was just a motion to make two co-chairs. I believe that was I
don't think that was the question, though.
That's not what I was suggesting. Basically, I'm saying, like, hey, if one of the 5 people who voted for Keith to be president is willing to just say, like, hey, I understand where this is going, and I promise to vote for Bill for vice chair, then, like, I'm trying to work towards the compromise.
I get what you're saying, and that's why I bring up history. So you can take the historical fact that last year there was a motion after 2 ballots to elect 2 co-chairs, which occurred last year. So you can take that bit of history as you like. So
I have another comment. I just want to point out to all the board members that this is a critical year for transition with CA. We've had a number of years of disruption, and we're starting to move towards stability. So I think it would be detrimental if not if you became chair, I'm just saying it would be detrimental if we started the year in a fashion that would create and continue that disruption. I think it shows, and we're on video, it shows to the public, and it also starts out the year in what I believe is in an inappropriate way. So as you're voting, please consider that, and, yeah.
So I just want to make a statement. So I think Andy and I worked very well last year together. I think we were a pretty good team. Yeah, it was a little weird, but I think we made it work. I don't think it was detrimental to the organization the way we structured it with 2 co-chairs. So I just wanted to lay that out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ashley.
I have one more question. If there are 2 members that receive really the most votes, right? So for instance, Keith and Bill for being in leadership positions, is it possible for those 2 to request saying, I would like to be chair and I would like to be vice chair, as like say there's not another member that is nominated to be vice chair and to receive as many votes as a third person?
So the 2 elections are separate elections. So what will happen is after this election, the chair, whoever that might be, will call for an election for vice chair. And we'll have nominations, same process that we're doing now for chair. We'll have nominations, we'll have votes. Dennis will count the votes with John. We'll get a report back, and we'll keep until we get a majority.
I see. Okay.
So any more comments? Any more motions before I call for a second ballot? Seeing no more motions, I will call for a second ballot. And seem like there's any more discussion.
Sorry about that.
Workman's comp, John.
They always have that. You get it in the back.
We'll talk about you at the risk meeting.
Yeah.
The board, right?
Good pro tip.
Sorry?
Good pro tip.
We'll get there. I must be missing.
I've got, no, I just had to get this.
Is it white smoke or black smoke?
Is there a vote?
Look, yeah, happy Mr. Paul.
So we could just be all day.
What happened with you and Andy? And no vice chair votes. Okay. So that motion couldn't be made from two stalemate votes for, a co-chair motion can only be made from that, it can't be, I motion for one to be chair, one to be vice chair.
So we have, sorry to John, we have a provision, make a motion for coaching, but it's the same position. We just have two people occupying the same position, which is the vice chair. So we could have a motion to have two co-chairs.
Okay. Yes.
So 5-5? So the results of the second ballot were 5-5. Karen?
Yeah, so if Bill is really convinced, instead of Keith withdrawing, because I think it's really critical that Keith be the chair of the board. Instead of Keith withdrawing, I would like to see Bill make a motion that he would like to be vice chair, rather than split co-chairs.
I think that's a great idea, but I think we've been down that road.
Have we? This sounds like a new thing.
No,
Yes,
we asked if we could elect a vice chair prior to the chair. That was denied. There was a suggestion made that we have a discussion about,
Bill, are you willing to take the vice chair position?
I'm willing to run for vice chair once that vote comes up. Right now, I'm in the position to be chair.
Do you agree that Keith should be the chair?
I think Keith would be a great chair.
So would you take the vice chair position?
So right now, we have no motions on the table.
Right. I'm just trying to feel Bill out, because
Is there a motion to discuss on the table?
I make a motion to discuss.
Is there a motion, is there anybody proposing a motion so we can discuss the motion? So right now, there's no motion on the table. We're still at a 5-5.
Tell us what we have to do, Eric, and we'll do it.
Make a motion to do something.
I would like to make a motion that we discuss the situation of the split vote. I would like us to not have a co-chair position.
I think it's important to call on people who raise their hands.
I did.
She did. We don't move to, if we're going to move to make a election, or we go to a third ballot. Sky also raised her hand.
Yeah, I assumed that we were discussing already, so I'll hold for the discussion.
Well, there's no motion.
So a motion has been made?
No, there's been no motion. Right now, we're discussing the election of chair. So the board is free to discuss the election of chair. That is the current task at hand. So are there any other comments? We've had two ballots that have resulted in a 5-5 split.
I have a comment about the candidates. Is that legitimate now? Okay. I would like to say positive things because I don't believe in negative campaigning. I think Keith would make an excellent chair. He has the ability to summarize at the end. He isn't constantly stating his opinion. He also has the ability to decrease the tension by using some levity. I think Bill would make an excellent chair because he knows Howard County, he knows Columbia and CA like the back of his hand. He also has, they're tied in my mind. Bill also can say something really humorous that kind of breaks the ice, and he saves his opinions, his statements to the end. And I think some of the things that he said are absolutely brilliant. So to me, I just wanted to say positive things rather than anything negative about either candidate.
Mike.
Yeah, I just want to point out that we've taken 2 votes. We've been split 5-5 on both of them. There are clearly 2 people that the board really values as being qualified for these positions. Some people are saying we are willing to take our candidate as the vice chair as long as that is guaranteed and allow Keith, the other candidate, to be the chair as long as Bill is vice chair. And I just think it's a real shame if we can't work towards that when that is clearly something that a lot of us want.
So Reg has a hand up next. Reg?
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking and watching all this, and I remember last year when we went through the whole process, then we came up with the idea of having a split, and that, I guess it worked out okay. One of the things that I wanted to do, I wanted to run for vice chair today. I wanted to do it, and matter of fact, I've wanted it for a couple months now. But I'm sitting there listening to this, and I'm kind of disgusted with the direction we're going with this. And I don't think I want to be vice chair. So I'm going to withdraw. I mean, I was going to put my name in and say, yeah, I'll do it, but I don't want to. I don't want to have anything to do with it now. So if you want it, you got it. But let's be clear. Let's think about what we're supposed to be doing here. And it isn't playing politics, and that's what you guys have been doing. I don't like it. I think it stinks.
Sky.
I think another factor is it's important that the chair and to a certain extent the vice chair have the time to devote to this. I assume there might be meetings with the CEO sometimes during the day. And if you have a very hectic full-time job, you may not be able to devote the time and energy to this.
So I'd like to just sort of follow up on that from my perspective. Having served as chair for the last couple of years, last year as co-chair and the year before as chair, and it is quite a task. It's a lot of work. Think of all the work you do on the board. It's a lot more work than that. In fact, I've actually reduced my workload at work to take on these responsibilities. So I've actually gone to a part-time schedule at work so I could support this organization. So yeah, it's not trivial. Keith.
So as I said earlier on in conversations last year, the idea of that, I applaud you, and I think that that's fantastic. It's really concerning to me that this resident board can't create a board chair position that doesn't require 1 million hours. And what that indicates to me is that we have a board chair position, not a board chair, but a board chair position that's been established over time that is basically operational in nature. And one of the things that I was articulating is that that's not what I plan to do. So I'm not going to have a meeting every week with I don't know if it's every week, I'm making all this up. I'm not going to have a meeting every week with the CEO. I probably at most, except in the beginning, I'm planning on having I'll have meetings weekly, but at most once a month. on the alternate times that we're doing board meetings. I don't believe that it requires that much effort. I've been on a number of boards over time, and as Karen had said, I've reported through boards, and I've never seen anything like this. And if someone compares this to county council or something along those lines, I just philosophically disagree that that's the way that that this organization should operate. But I understand that those are differences of opinion, throughout a number of people. So I don't think it requires as much time in my assessment.
Dennis?
So I'd like to say, I like the idea of compromise. I don't think where we are now is compromise. I think it's being divided. I'd like to recommend we take a third vote and try to reach a compromise instead of being so clearly divided.
I agree with that. I do want to say that, we, chair and vice chair, do typically meet with the CEO generally after the meetings just to figure out how to plan the next meeting and get to run smoothly. So with that, are there any, Mike?
So earlier, we tried to have a motion to have a chair and vice chair as a joint vote. There was an objection to that, to doing that, and so we didn't go forward with that because of the objection.
Two objections.
There was, I'm sorry, I didn't know you objected.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, well, I was just going to throw out there, maybe we can reconsider that to see if there's any objections again, and maybe consider that motion again.
And I think you should consider the person that you're talking about for chair was one of the people that.
Yep, I didn't realize that you had objected to that. I thought that was just.
I believe there are multiple objections to it, so I'd prefer not to revisit something that's been objected to twice. That's okay. Are there any other discussion before we move to a third ballot?
Yeah.
Karen, or?
Yeah, I just have one quick question. So my understanding here is that the best person for the job is being held hostage by a split vote, and that the person who only wants to be the vice chair won't withdraw if it's a split vote again. I just want to make sure that I understand.
Keith?
Yeah.
Could you repeat that? I didn't follow.
I'll move on to Keith. Keith?
Yeah, I'll make it easy. If we're going to a third vote, I'm going to withdraw my name from the chair. I also won't be in the vice chair because, I feel like that leadership role is really critical in terms of establishing the CEO relationship. So if you're not going to withdraw, then I plan to withdraw. So,
Bill?
I appreciate your efforts, Keith. I truly do. And I'm growing concerned that the language here has been boiling. We started with, this is politics, and then we started with disgusting. And this language is not helpful. This is not, you have two groups of people right now, as far as the votes have gone down. 5 people truly believe in one candidate, 5 people truly believe in another. It's a very simple thing. I don't think that we need to go much farther into the name calling or the disparaging remarks, and I'm not really thrilled with the direction we're going in right now.
I didn't hear any name calling.
So I'd just like to ask the board, is there any appetite on the board to have co-chairs again?
I'm going to say no to that.
Co-chair.
Okay, I just want to ask.
Unless there was someone else that wanted to be a co-chair, that's totally. But I am not. I don't have.
I just want to throw that out there because that's what we did last year, and I just want to throw that out there.
That's a fair question, but respectfully, no.
Okay, that's fair enough. So with that, I will move to a third vote.
Okay, and I'm withdrawing my name from the vote.
Are you officially?
If I officially withdraw, do we have to go to a third vote?
Well, you can open up nominations again if you withdraw. Reg.
So, listen very carefully. He said that if we go to third vote, he would withdraw. That would make you the chair. But you've said over and over again that you think Keith is the man to be the chair, if I understood what you said. So here's an opportunity for you to say, Keith, you become the chair. Bow out. I've already said I'm not running. So you can have it. I don't think anybody else is planning to be vice. So if I were you, I would go ahead and bow out of the chair position and then come back run for vice.
May I respond?
You may respond.
Okay. I appreciate that, Reg. Thank you. And the condition that we're in right now is that the motion on the table is about the chair, and the discussion of vice has been excluded both by lack of a unanimous consent and by the reading of the policy. So it was very difficult to discuss the next step without first going through this step. And I'm trying to understand, if you work this through with me, Keith becomes chair, and we're all very happy about that. And that would be a reality, I think. I'm fairly certain. We go to the vice chair vote, and that doesn't go the way that at least I intended to go.
Also,
So,
Karen.
Bill, you're going to be the only nominee for vice chair.
yeah, okay. All right.
I mean, I don't understand, unless you think you can't win against yourself.
This is, you said politics was a bad word. This is what I'm talking about in terms of the round and round with all of this stuff.
Sky.
I said that I thought Keith would make an excellent chair, and I gave the reasons why. I also said I thought Bill would make an excellent chair, and I gave the reasons why. What I heard Bill say was that Keith would be a good chair or an excellent chair. I didn't hear Bill say that he would not be a good chair or that anybody else would or would not be a good chair.
With that, I'll call for a third ballot. Dennis? Or what? Joel?
Okay.
So I think it's a good idea to take a 5.
Okay, is there any objections to take a recess for 10 minutes?
Nope.
No objections? The board's in recess for 10 minutes. Any further discussion on, yes, Bill?
Thank you. Given the recess, my concern is that if there's a third vote, Keith will not stand for a third vote. So I'd like to withdraw from the nomination.
Okay, your withdrawal's accepted.
Someone has to nominate themselves for chair because I'm not nominating myself for chair after this circus.
So, are you?
Are you saying you don't want to be the chair at all?
Are you withdrawing your nomination for chair?
I've withdrawn my nomination.
So right now, we have no nominations for chair. So so the beauty is, at 8:25, we're back to where we started from.
Okay.
I will open up the nominations for the position of chair of the CA Board of Directors. Are there any nominations for chair? Reg.
All right, I nominate Keith as chair.
Okay, we've got a nomination for Keith. Are there any other nominations for the role of chair of the board? There are no other what?
I think Keith's trying.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I'm not doing it at this point. We've single-handedly unwound everything that's gone on that I've worked for. And the amount of time that I've put into doing this, especially to have past board members that are willing to do the things, I understand from newer board members, but to have past board members decide to do what happened, that's just an affront to me because it goes against everything that we've been working to build over the course of the last year, and it's just not true to my value system. So,
Mike.
I really disagree with your characterization of what happened here. I think there were people trying to work towards a compromise, but we won't relitigate that, and I'll renominate Bill if Keith is unwilling.
We have a nomination for Bill. Karen.
I would like to nominate Reg.
We have a nomination for Reg. Reg, you accept the nomination?
No.
Reg declined the nomination. Are there any other nominations for the role of chair? Going once, going twice, it's all yours.
Wow. I guess. All right. There we go. Thanks. Just wanted to start and say, clearly I was not the candidate that some people did not want to be chair. I did not come into this meeting this evening thinking that I would be chair, but now that I have been elected chair, I will do my level best this year to honor the position and this board. Where are we now in the agenda? Nominations for vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? Karen.
I would like to nominate Colin.
Karen nominates Colin. Colin, would you stand to be vice chair this year?
I accept.
Colin accepts. Are there any other nominations for vice chair this year? Chris, I'm kind of new to this. I just want to make sure you're not. Did you have any nominations?
Nope, I'm following along.
All right, thank you, Chris. All right. Going once, going twice, no other nominations? Having no other nominations, Colin, welcome aboard. You want to come up to the front here, in front of the lights?
That's like vice chair material.
All right. Moving on, appointments to committees. Now, if memory serves correctly, for appointment to committees, the chair gets to select those. We now have 3 committees that we need to appoint people to. First committee that we have is the, Dennis, sorry.
So Jackie would like to say a few words about what it means to be on the audit committee, if that's okay.
I would be more than okay with that, yes.
Hello, Jackie Tuma, Director of Audit and Advisory Services. The Audit Committee assists the board in fulfilling its oversight responsibilities in 4 key areas: financial reporting process, the CA's system of internal controls, the audit process, and CA's ethics program, monitoring how that is being managed. So that means a whole number of things, including being presented the quarterly financial statements and financial reports, reviewing internal and external audit reports, approving the internal audit plan, recommending to the Board of Directors the appointment of the independent auditors who do the financial audit, financial statements and CA's 401k plan, reviewing the annual IRS 990 form, and reviewing quarterly ethics memos from the principal ethics officer, who is our general counsel, and other matters regarding CA's ethics program as needed. So in addition to 3 board members, it includes 2 community members who meet the definition of a financial expert. 2 things in the audit committee charter that I will mention are that continuity on the committee is important from year to year, and anybody with strong financial and business acumen is highly recommended and encouraged to join.
Okay, thank you very much. Having heard from the committee, is there anybody who would like to be on the committee? I see Karen and Eric and Reg, you've been on the committee before, right?
Yep.
All right, so I guess we got the 3 of you there. So Karen.
Yeah.
Eric. I got 3 positions and Reg, and we need at least one that have been on before, just for continuity. So, and Eric's been on it before. Well, can we get Mike on the committee? Would one of you want to take another position? Would that be possible? No? All right. Okay. Risk management. Susan, would you like to say a few things about risk management?
So I'm Susan Krabbe, Vice President and CFO. The Risk Management Committee is responsible for overseeing CA's general liability self-insurance program. Risk management sounds a little broader than the committee's roles and responsibilities. It's focused on the general liability. There's a trust to be overseen with a relationship with a trustee, and matters related to general liability traditionally or usually issues related to members of the community. It does not relate to employee matters, but those meetings are closed. They're very sensitive, and you would be overseeing of about a $6.5 million trust as well. And again, that committee has a member, a resident expert who has that kind of experience in insurance and general liability matters. If you have that kind of experience, it'd be very helpful, and I appreciate you participating. Thanks.
Okay. Folks who would like to volunteer for risk management. Okay, Ashley, Mike, and Sky. Next order of business is board operations. For those who are new to the CA board, board operations is a committee that meets quarterly. We typically have the chair, the vice chair, and the president who attend that. And then we have 2 board members cycle through on a rotating basis. Board operations is the center of governance, and it is also the place where the agendas for the quarter are prepared. So we each take a turn at it. There are 4 months in which they're held: June, August, November, and February. It would be great if we could get all of those slots filled tonight.
I just have a question, Billy.
Yes.
Yeah, so are you filling in for all the slots tonight? Is that what you're saying?
Could you turn on your green?
Are you filling all the slots for Board Operations Committee tonight?
That would be nice.
Okay.
I don't think we have to. We certainly should get the ones for June filled and maybe August, so we can
Absolutely
get that done. But if we could get them all done, I'd really be happy about that. If there's an objection, I would like to hear it. But for Sky,
I'd like to sign up for June because the other meetings conflict with my village board meetings.
Okay, well, thank you, Sky. Anybody else want to fill a position? Keith, I haven't heard from you. Yes?
June is fine.
June. Okay, so that's Keith in June. June is closed. Karen?
I'll do August.
Karen is in August, okay. Anyone else?
I'll do August.
Reg? All right, you guys are meeting together, audit committee and Eric.
I'll do November.
Eric is in November.
I'll also do November.
Chris is in November.
I'll just do whatever you need me to.
I've got 2 slots left, and that's in February. We got the Mike and Ashley. All right? And you and I are in for the long haul, so welcome aboard, Colin. All right, where are we on IAT? That's next, yes? Inter Arbor Trust. Inter Arbor Trust, we have an agreement with the Inter Arbor Trust that we have 2 members of the CA board on the Inter Arbor Trust in addition to the president who serves as an ex officio member. Do I have anybody who's willing to be on the Inter Arbor Trust? Anyone?
I'll take it.
Reg? Thank you, Reg.
Yep.
How often do they meet?
Good question.
I believe once a month.
Generally once a month, except in the summertime, there's time taken off, sometimes because of like events and things that are going on. So it slows down a little bit in the summertime.
Probably it's 8 times a year.
Yeah. And it's like the first Monday of the month at this point, unless they change it.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Reg, if you can work on this, we'll try and get you a partner on this. We'll talk with some of our board members. Okay? All right, so Reg and TBD. Very good. All right. Reappointment of the officers of the Columbia Association. So, Dennis, if you can help me out on this part.
So it's Dennis Matty's interim president, CEO, Susan Krabbe's vice president, Lynn Swartz as the treasurer, and Stephen Rees as the assistant secretary.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, and John Kuchno. I missed John. Sorry.
Okay.
I apologize, John.
Amendment accepted.
Officers of Corp is Mike moved, and who was Reg or Keith? Who?
I did second.
Reg was the second. Thank you, sir. All right. Any discussion? Very good. All those in favor of the officers of the corporation? Oh, we got to do this by roll call, don't we? Or do you want to do it unanimous? Any objection? So without objection, the officers of the corporation have been appointed. Yep. All right. We're now on to the schedule of the Board of Directors meetings. That is on page 44 of your packet there. You guys can make it all the way down there. All right. Do I have a motion for the meetings?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so moved by Colin.
Is this something that has to be voted on?
I don't think so.
It's an agenda item, I didn't know, okay.
It's more for discussion.
All right, well then,
It's
any,
old business, new business.
I was trying to get to the, if we move in second, then we can discuss. But if we want to just have a general discussion, we can move through this quickly. And any concerns about the schedule that was approved by the last board? All right, well then we will accept the scheduled meetings. And that leads us to adjournment of this meeting.
I move.
Moved by Keith. Seconded by Colin. Any objection to adjourning? All right, so we are adjourned. So that leaves us our last. And that's,
I think I need my script back. There we go. Pass it down.
sorry. It was helpful. Thank you, Eric.
That's why I left it there.
39. So, last meeting of the night, which is the meeting of the Columbia Council, the good old Columbia Council, the original article there. We will call the meeting of the Columbia Council to order at 8:39 p.m. All right.
I think my script's in the other packet.
Yeah.
Bill, Chris has his hand up.
Chris.
Sorry, that was for committee nomination, or for a committee volunteer.
Oh, would you like to volunteer for the Inner Harbor? Is that what you're saying?
That's not what I said.
Okay.
Come on, Chris, join me.
They don't meet on Thursdays.
That's, all right. What did you want to volunteer for, Chris? I just want to make sure.
I did volunteered for the November for the Board Operations Committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gunning for June, or sorry, gunning for August, but November's fine.
All right, November. Okay, I got you on it.
Yeah, it should already be there.
Okay.
Can you just go through the committee assignments again?
Okay, sure. Just
recap them.
We're in a different meeting, but for the purposes of review, I'd be
We can
happy
do it
to.
afterwards.
No worries, no worries. We'll get it through here. The audit committee is Karen, Eric, and Reg. The risk management committee would be Ashley, Mike, and Sky. As far as the assignments for the board operations committee, Sky and Keith will be at the June meeting. Karen and Reg will do August, which I think is actually the Virgo part of August and not the Leo part. November is Eric and Chris, and then Mike and Ashley are February. Inner Harbor Trust is Reg, and a player to be named later. Okay? You good, Eric?
Yeah, I just want to know
Good
where it
to
was.
All right. So, Columbia Council meeting. Let's take attendance. Eric?
Here.
Karen?
Here.
Keith?
Here.
I'm here. Colin?
Here.
Ashley?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
Reg?
Here.
Chris?
Also here.
All right.
I'm here.
I'm sorry, and Sky.
Here.
I'm already messing up here. Keep me honest, Sky. My apologies. My apologies. All right. This meeting is being live streamed and will be available on YouTube at a later date. We need to approve the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
I'll be second.
Okay. So the agenda is Eric and seconded by Keith. All right. Approval of the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Eric and Keith. Thank you for all your participation there. Appointment of the Columbia Council Chair and Vice Chair.
Which is typically the same.
Is there any objection to the Chair and Vice Chair of the Board of Directors becoming the Chair and Vice Chair of the Columbia Council? Hearing no objection, so moved. All right. Now we're to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, Eric, motions to adjourn.
Second.
Keith, you guys were perfect, just right on. All right, and that would be at 8:43. Thank you guys for a lovely and productive meeting of the Columbia Council. We'll see you guys next year.
That's true.
Yeah.